atmosphere, and that Chinese spy balloon entered American territory. It entered a U.S. airspace, initially in Alaska. It spent 2 days over the airspace of Alaska, and Joe Biden and the Democrats did nothing. In fact, I'm going to tell you something that is really astonishing. The Biden administration didn't even tell Joe Biden that the Chinese spy balloon had entered American airspace. The commander-in-chief had no idea. So if you want to know why they didn't do anything, because this commander-in-chief is so checked out that he didn't even know the Chinese had invaded our airspace. Now, after 2 days, the balloon exited American airspace and it went over Canada. And as it was headed over Canada, it headed south. And a couple of days later, it entered American airspace again. It entered over Idaho, and then it went to Montana, and then it traveled south and east. Now, we all know about the Chinese spy balloon today, but we don't know because the president told us. We don't know because the Biden administration informed us. Now, the reason we know is some enterprising people in Montana looked up in the sky and they saw it. They saw the thing up in the air. They took pictures of it. And suddenly it was on Twitter. It was on social media. It was on the press. And suddenly the Biden administration realized not that they had a national security threat, because that was not their principal concern, but rather they had a PR concern because it was now public. Now, once that happened, the Biden administration still did nothing. They didn't shoot it down. They just allowed it to continue spying on us. And as you noted, Deborah, as it went south, it went over military installation after military installation after military installation. It went after sensitive places that we have our stealth fighters, our stealth bombers, our nuclear missiles. It deliberately charted a course that was designed for espionage, and all the while the espionage, it's carrying out espionage, taking pictures, presumably taking video, perhaps using infrared, attempting to intercept communications, attempting to intercept Wi-Fi. All of that, the Biden administration did nothing. And it wasn't until over a week later, when the balloon had completed its mission, when it went out to the Atlantic, and by the way, the information that it was discovering from espionage, presumably it was beaming that information up to a Chinese satellite and back to Beijing. So the Chinese Communist government presumably has all of that information they stole about our national security that Joe Biden did nothing to stop. And once the mission was complete, but only after it was complete, did they shoot it down. Now, in the week since then, we've seen them shoot down 3 other unidentified flying objects. I can tell you last week I had a 2.5-hour classified briefing on the Chinese spy balloon. This week I have another classified briefing scheduled on these other unidentified objects that they shot down. Now, the good news is the last 3 objects they shot down, as far as we know from public press reports, quickly. But the reason they did it is because they were embarrassed as a PR matter by the debacle of the first Chinese spy satellite. And or spy balloon, rather. And I can tell you the consequences of what they did. Number one, they allowed the Chinese government to complete their espionage mission. But number two, they projected weakness to the world. Every enemy of America knew that Joe Biden and this administration allowed the Chinese to be aggressive. I believe communist China is the single greatest geopolitical threat facing the United States for the next century. And for the past decade, I've been leading the fight to stand up and be serious confronting communist China. Sadly, when they came to be tested, the Biden administration failed the test.
Thank you, Senator Cruz.